Welcome home, everybody. Welcome home. This is War. We're all recovering. The show where real stories heal real people. Today, I have a very, very special episode. One word, redemption. Today, my guest is Mike Schmidt, a U.S. Air Force veteran whose story proves that no matter how far you fall, grace can still find you. From loss and addiction to faith and freedom, Mike's journey isn't about perfection, it's about purpose. So listen up, guys. Wherever you're listening from, buckle in, because this one's not just a story, it's a comeback. I'm very excited for this episode. Mike, how you doing? How you doing, brother? Welcome to War. We're all recovering.
Amen, James. Great to meet you and your audience, man. I tell you what, I've got a story to share, and I'm ready when you guys are to dive into it. It's a story, like you said, about redemption, God's goodness and faithfulness, even when we run from God. I'm living proof that the prodigal son can come home and be loved by God. So, my story and journey basically began when I was born into an alcoholic home. And my mom had severe mental illness, and I kind of got a combination of both genes, having the bipolar stuff and had manic breaks all throughout my life that I shared in my story. The only thing that was really my solace all along my journey was to write. And, kind of fast forwarding in time, I journaled for over 30 some years and writing about all the painful places I was in, like the psych units, the homeless shelters. I was institutionalized for 6 weeks out in Jamestown, North Dakota, where I lost all my freedoms. And man, I tell you what, it's a story for the ages, because I'm not only now a 100% service-connected veteran, and I was sharing with you guys before we came on air that I help veterans, if we have some in the audience here today, that I'll get them that 100% and fight for them. I got a great contact, and I know not all of our audience are veterans, but they hold a very near and dear special place to my heart because of all the struggles that, I had to go through in my life. So, but yeah, I lost my dad. I'm a 2-time suicide survivor. My dad died when I was 15, and that was my first suicide attempt at a young age. And, write about in the book that I didn't not only care if I died, but if I took people out with me, the way I tried to commit suicide, which was hell of a thing to confess to on air, but it's the truth. So, but James, I think the thing is, the one thing I was sharing with this lady that interviewed me for a media piece this past 2 weeks. It came out here in the Fargo Forum. They did a write-up on my story, which is a blessing in and of itself, because ever since that happened, man, my business has doubled overnight. And by doing these shows, I really get to share, some laughs, some tears, and everything else about all the pain and, all the hell I had to go through on earth, from being in a padded cell, seeing hell, for 3 straight days. I write about that in the sample chapters on my website at theguttergospel.com. And not only that, but prior to that, 11 years before that episode, my dead dad appeared to me telling me to blow my effing head off. That's on the sample chapters too. And those manic breaks, man, I tell you what, I've got a heart after God and a heart for the hurting people that suffer with mental illness. I'm an advocate for that. I don't know if you can see this on my shirt, but this is my custom gear. It says 22 veterans per day with crosses on each side, my Nike logo, and my flag down here says former homeless veteran shares his true life story at theguttergospel.com. I wear that gear everywhere. I get them from Custom Ink out in New York. And I just, a lot of brand awareness. I'm going to a great big evangelical, it's a fundraiser, what it is, tonight at a real fancy hotel. My wife always says, well, you got to wear that ridiculous gear. And I'm like, you know what, man? It gets the conversation going, if nothing else, I'll just share this with you. I'm involved in a lot of Bible studies, and just this past Saturday, guys and I were going out to the courtyard. It was nice outside to have our Bible study, and this guy from behind says, "Excuse me, sir, but thank you for your service." Right? I turn around and it's this veteran with a Navy hat on who had like a withered hand. Right? So there you go. You save one at a time. It's kind of like my book in that chapter, The Sea of Tears, the parable of the muddy penny, where God appeared to me in a dream one night saying, spend as much time with one person as you can and show them as much love and compassion as you can so that they can see their self-worth instead of looking at themselves in the mirror and thinking they're not worth anything. But like I said, love on them, and they will shine one day like a brand new penny and help one more down the road. So that's kind of my message in life. I share all of my learning that I've done since January is when I started the podcasting thing, right after I got my autobiography published out in January with Brooklyn Publishers. They did a great job. You've read the book, or at least part of it, James, so you know they did quite a write-up on it. So I'd recommend anybody wants a copy, they can find that on the bottom of the homepage on my website for $7.99. The money I raise from my book sales and on my donate tab go to support the local food pantry out here. I got to mention that, man. I was scheduled to go to this ICVM Storytellers Conference is what it's called. And what it is basically a faith-based global event that happens once a year where you get all the faith-based producers, directors, investors, and all these guys come in for the conference, right? And I was going to be a sponsor this year at the conference. I had my plane ticket paid for and everything else. And so a buddy of mine from one of my small men's groups said, Mike, you really got to meet Blair Hill in that food pantry, him and his wife, Jody. And I'm like, well, okay, man, I've got a bad arm and I don't know how much help I can get, but I kept putting them off. So finally I went, and this was like 3 weeks before I was supposed to go to that conference. And again, everything had been paid for, right? So I go out there and I see this operation, people lined up around the block, waiting in line for a box of food to last them for the next week. They only do distribution once a week, right? So I see that, man, and I'm like, I went home that night, James, and what happened to me was God was working on my heart saying, Mike, you're not going to Orlando for that conference, man. You're going to give that money to that food pantry, and you're going to bless them. And ever since I did that, like I said a minute ago, my podcasting business has over doubled within the last 3 weeks since I made that, or God showed me, man, you're going this way thinking you're going to be some big movie hot dog or get a movie made of your life. You got to go this way, dude, and be a servant. You got to be putting people that are hurting first, and don't always be about yourself. Get out of your own headspace, basically. God just corrected course on me in love. So, I got the gutter gospel on my wristband too. Like I said, I'm a branding machine out here. I give those to guys too, pass those out. And I have 3 big bags of them. So when I mail you the chippers we talked about off air, those chocolate covered potato chips, they'll stick some wristbands in the package too that you can hand out for the gutter gospel. Yeah, man, I tell you, James, it's my message to everybody is, God just loves us unconditionally. And I'm a big dog lover. I just met Ted, your puppy, on air here before the show started. What a sweetheart that little guy is, even though he bites feet. He bites your foot. I should say that, I shared that in a Bible study I did yesterday where guys were going around with the jail chaplains I'm involved with up here, and they're sharing about, their view of God and what is God from a father figure perspective. And I said, man, God is like a dog spelled backwards is God, G-O-D and D-O-G. It's like unconditional love. That's your heavenly father. Loves you, corrects you lovingly when you're off course. And, I didn't see it when I was in those homeless shelters and in all the different trials I had in my life. I kept rejecting God. I don't know why, but I did. one story I always share is that there was, when I was getting kicked out of the Air Force for smoking marijuana back in the 80s, I was being embarrassed. They stuck me waxing ambulances out in the hot Texas sun. And this sweet old lady came up to me and hands me a Bible tract, right? And I'm sitting there looking at it, and I start reading through it, and I'm thinking, okay, this is all like Christian based of some kind. So I gave it back to her. I said I couldn't accept it, and I had already told her my name. So she said, "Well, Mike, why can't you accept this?" And I said, "Well, A, I'm not a Christian. B, I'm an alcoholic. C, I'm a drug addict. And fourth, I'm getting kicked out of this place in less than 2 or 3 more days. So I don't know what my next move is or where I'm going in life." And she stops and she goes, "Oh, Mike, I tell you what, God loves sinners, man. He went to the cross for you." And she's sharing all this with me, right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's just going in one ear and out the other. I wasn't ready to accept it. But I had to go through all those trials in life because I'm a pig-headed Irishman, strong-willed, and I'm like, hey, God was always there. Think of that story about the prodigal son, how happy that dad was to see his son coming back and, coming back home after all of his hard living where he ruined his life basically and had nothing and came back home, and how grateful and happy his dad was that the prodigal finally came home. And now that's my mission field is, it's so diverse because it's vets, it's people that are on the streets, that don't have anything to eat. It's other podcast guys trying to get their start in the business. It's just a whole array of people I'm helping without leaving the comfort of my own bedroom. You can see all the pictures of the airplanes in the background. That's my son's. I'm sitting in my son's bedroom because that was his lifelong dream, was to become a pilot. So that's why I like doing all of my shows from his bedroom, is that he's working on becoming a pilot, and I couldn't be more proud of the guy. He's a hard worker. He's my only child, so obviously he's the apple of my eye. But I don't know if you're a parent or not, but when I was being fall down drunk when he was being raised, there's a lot of ground I got to make up. So that's why the recovery is such a big piece of it. It's like if you can't do it for yourself, first, at least do it for your son. So that's that's the way I'm looking at life now, is that I'm involved in so many different church groups that keep me sober. It's one a day at least that I'm involved with some, either the jail chaplains or other men's groups, to just love on those guys and have them love on me in return. And it's a blessing, man. I'm very blessed.
Mike, I have so much to ask you, and I'm sitting here listening to you, and I realize we have a lot in common, but this is all about you today. I have so much to ask you. So let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
How did your upbringing and your family shape your understanding of strength and survival?
Well, yeah, I don't really know that my upbringing really gave me that sense of survival, because, like I said, I am a 2-time suicide survivor. I was given up on myself more than anything, and being raised in an alcoholic family, I shared this with this friend of mine that is looking for me for answers these days because she wants to start her own podcasting thing too. But anyway, I said something that I'd never shared with anybody my entire life, and that is that when I was raised in that family setting that I talked about a few minutes back, it's like I would hide underneath my parents' bed, scared out of my mind. And they would be looking for me, thinking I ran away from home when I was like 3 or 4 or something. They couldn't find me. And I was just, so being raised that way, it was tough, because when I was 12 years old, my dad lost his job. He was the manager of a J.C. Penney clothing store. So then he was out of options. 5 kids in the family to support. I was the second youngest, and so he's got his wife and all these kids to support, and was out of options. So they took their life savings and bought some. Tried to get started in their own clothing store up in this little town outside of Fargo, about a half-hour drive down the interstate. And as I shared earlier, he died 3 years later when I was 15. And I'll never forget the night he died. He was intoxicated, and we had a pool table in our basement, and he was down there drunk shooting pool. And I remember being in my bedroom right next to the pool table trying to get sleep and cursing him, saying, God, please kill him, so I can get some sleep and make it to school the next day. And man, I tell you what, James, I carried guilt about that because he did die that night. And when I was sharing that in treatment, all the treatments I'd been in, it's like, why would you have to carry all that guilt with you? That was just a happenstance, but so this happened about 3-4 months ago, James. I'll share this with you, man. This is personal. And it's this, what happened was I would always take these drives back to Barnesville because it's like I said, it's only a half hour from Fargo. So, I went down to the cemetery, and I was sitting there, and I never said this before, but I went out to the family plot where they are, and I said, you know what, guys, I think with the challenges that you both had in life, my mom being mentally ill and him with his drinking, I said, I think that you did the best you could with what you were given in life. I had found out, after I was older, that my brother shared with me that my dad tried to hang himself when I was only 2 years old. So I got that, and like I said, the mental makeup from my mom. So that led to my mental illness, and I'll never forget all of the hell I had to go through on earth, being raised that way, and coming out the other end. If anything else, I'm a survivor, like you were asking me about, but I don't know that it really ties into the family so much. I think it was just God protecting me, especially when I did those 2 suicide attempts. Like the second one was me hanging myself in the basement of our house. I was stringing myself up with a big electrical cord, and I remember I was just about to kick the stool out, and there's a still quiet voice that said, Mike, your life still has a purpose. And it's like I just paused, and I know it was God, man, taking me off that ledge and saying, I didn't know what would become of my life, but I just knew that somehow God was going to restore me. And I'll share this with you too. Right before I went into my first homeless shelter down in St. Cloud, I was up on a psych unit, and there was this guy I became buddies with, this other vet. And he said, Mike, there's something about you that's different, man. I don't know what it is, but I think one day all this stuff you have lost, you have nothing to your name. I bet you anything, man, that one day you're going to be blessed like 1,000-fold. God's just going to restore you, and all the damage and all the hell you had to go through in life. I bet you anything, man, that you're going to be sharing this with somebody one day. And as fate would have it, like I said, I watched my best friend die of cancer this past December 14th, Brad Witzke. I mentioned him in all my shows. And I felt depressed, James. Honestly, I fell into a dark hole right before and when the first of the year came around, so this is like 3 weeks later, I was done feeling sorry for myself. And I was like, Brad wouldn't want me to just continue to mourn, man. He would want me to go on and honor his memory to my best ability. And that's when I got looking into finishing my journaling and to getting it published, and then started my podcasting. So my life kind of came full circle that way. And I'll let you throw some more questions at me in the time we have here remaining.
This hits deep. Your story hits deep. And first off, I want to say rest in peace to Brad Witzke. Rest in peace. I'm sorry for your loss, brother.
Yeah.
I know
Thank
how
you.
that feels. Now, those early struggles, the instability, the uncertainty, how did that lead you towards military service?
Yeah, good question. Well, what happened, James, was after he died, my dad at 15, my mom would make it clear. She'd come home and she was trying to run the store. She didn't have any knowledge of how to do it because she was a stay at home mother. So everything was dumped on her lap, once her husband passed away. So she would come home every night from trying to run the store saying, we're losing the store, we're losing the house. You got to figure something out for yourself to get yourself taken care of because we can't I can't offer you anything more. And so it was I tried college for a year after high school, barely graduated high school with bad grades, and then college for a year where I met this guy that was a pot dealer I became good friends with by the name of Don Matthews. And I went into the Air Force. Donnie and I lost touch. And after I got kicked out, I was heading back home to Moorhead, Fargo. It was about the only thing I could think of because I was from that area. And I just had everything packed in the back of my U-Haul. So was strung out on drugs driving back, straight shot from Texas to North Dakota, falling asleep at the wheel half the time and strung out, like I said. So I came back in a total mess. The house was still there, but it was about to go back to the bank. So, so I wound up getting this apartment. I had a little bit of money saved and was out at the bar one night, ran into Donnie, and he said, we kind of concocted an idea that we would rent a house together and sell high grade marijuana because I had like seeds from this guy I knew from Hawaii that had Maui, and we had that in Thai stick from his journeys over in Thailand. Donnie was a ex-Marine, 5th degree black belt in Taekwondo, got me trained up in the best shape I'd ever been in. And after that, I bumped into a lady that would become my wife, and we're still married 36 plus years later. But I tell you what, man, I took her through hell and back with me with all my mental health issues and my alcoholism and everything else. She got to the point where she had given up on me, and that's why I wound up in those 2 different homeless shelters and in the state institution and all the other stuff. She was just exhausted with it all. So, I got to work on restoring that, the relationship with my son, like I mentioned, because I'm no saint. I'm probably, like it says in the Bible, the Apostle Paul saying, I'm probably the worst of all the sinners. So, God just has a lot of mercy and grace on my life to protect me first and to give me a purpose second. So, but yeah, that's nothing I would wish on anybody, man, to have to go through all those trials and struggles and giving up on yourself and, just all of that all those problems resonate. When I was interviewed with that lady at the Fargo Forum, she said, Mike, what do you think it is about your shows and your podcasts that you do that really resonates with people? And I said, one word, authentic. People can tell I'm the real deal. It's all true. B, I wrote about it. C, my profile, if you Google Mike Smith, the Gutter Gospel, it's all there, from my shows to my book to everything. And I do it all, like I said, for mental health awareness and helping the vets out, helping the food pantry out, and doing all that stuff. It all goes to a good cause. Those guys are doing the work of the Lord, man, out there feeding the poor. So that's what we're here to do. Not, like I said, I went from trying to have that movie made of me and instead wound up becoming a humble servant for the food pantry and a spokesman. I just got us booked to go into this FM area foundation where they get money from all the people's wealth that donate to charities. We got that appointment set coming up on the 20th. So opening doors for that food pantry ministry. So that's a blessing, man.
Congratulations. So, Mike, are you a Taekwondo master?
I never got that skill from Donnie, man. Donnie would win all these tournaments, and being an ex-Marine, we had a deal back in the late '80s. I'll be 61 here in a few weeks, so I'm kind of an old duff. But back in the day, man, I tell you what, there was this health club, and we were both janitors in it to get a free membership. We were that broke. So anyway, we'd play racquetball, lift weights, you name it. We'd clean, during the night, and then go in there and use the gym at the day. And basically, hour upon hour, we were either in there lifting and racquetball, or we were running outside, miles. So lean and mean, Donnie was just something else, man. Little dynamo. He wasn't very tall. He's only like 5'3", but I wouldn't mess with the guy, I tell you that.
I would have never guessed.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, before we get any deeper, I want to touch on mental health.
Yeah.
Can you share what your first encounter with depression or addiction felt like?
Oh, yeah. I'll never forget that. There was this only friend I had in high school when I was 12 years old named John Hansen. And unfortunately, I heard about John on Facebook about 5-6 years ago. He took his own life. But in the day, he had introduced me not only to alcohol, but to smoking marijuana when we were 12 years old. So the first night I ever drank was a bottle of blackberry brandy that John and I split, and got so drunk I wound up falling down the gutter. And that's kind of how I came up with the gutter gospel, because I fell first. There's a chapter in my book I know you read now, James, called My First Bloody Gutter, that documents me falling down face first in the gutter and bleeding all over myself. And my brother found me that way the very first time I got intoxicated. So, but yeah, it all ties together to God's glory. All the screw ups and mishaps Mike had in his life are all now being turned around for the better to help others. So got to be doing something right by the mercy of Christ, right?
Right. It's wild how early pain plants seeds that, later turn into purpose. We
Yes,
just
sir.
don't see it yet.
Yeah, that's part of being young, James. And there's a chapter in my book, too, I call Purpose from Pain. And I'm going on a show here in this upcoming week. That's the title of it, Purpose from Pain, or something to that effect. So I can resonate and relate to that, a lot. Purpose from pain, man. That's, unfortunately, like, that when we're all young, we think we got all the answers, but we find out later in life how naive we really were the hard way.
Right. Mike, you said before that there was a moment, a lowest moment, the one that finally made you look up and seek faith. Describe that moment for us. Where were you? What was going through your mind at that time?
Well, yeah, here's what happened. There's a lot of those moments in my life, to be honest with you, but I think the kicker was when I was put out in that state mental institution for 6 weeks. I was crying out to God, man, because I was at the end of my rope there. I had been through all the treatment centers. I'd been through the homeless shelter. I was about to go into my next homeless shelter. I didn't know it at the time. But so anyway, what they would do they would shackle me, man, head to toe, James. I'm not exaggerating. And they would put me in the back of a paddy wagon. Okay. And so this state hospital, to give you a reference point, is in Jamestown, North Dakota, which is 100 miles exactly straight west of me in Fargo. So they put me in chains, like I said, in the back of a paddy wagon by myself and shuttle me back to Fargo to stand trial right before different judges in chains to beg for my freedoms. And I was denied 5 weeks in a row, right? They all said, no, he's too crazy to be released back into society, right? And I'm crying out to God in the 6 weeks saying, take me away, take me to hell, or take me wherever, because I'm just sick of it. I'm done. So I'm crying, man, and I'm looking up, and there's this plaque on the wall that said, you've been given this life because you're strong enough to live it. And I just remember that really resonating with me. So they finally released me from the state mental institution the following week. And I wound up going to my second homeless shelter where there were criminals downstairs that were coming out of the Cass County lockup trying to get back into society, and they'd put the vets upstairs, and I'd get in fights in the homeless shelter with vets, and it was not a good spot to be in there either. So one day, man, this is what turned it all around, James. I'm sitting in my bedroom or in the cot where all the other roommates of mine were, and they were all at work. I'm sitting there by myself, and this lady that worked there came in and said, "Mike, you got some mail today." And I'm thinking, who in the hell would be mailing me, man? I've lost everything. And long story short, it was 2 big service checks in there for 100% back pay. That lady I was telling you about earlier that helped me was following my case all the way through and said this guy needs 100% service connection so he has a chance in life. So actually what happened was I got the money, packed up my one suitcase as fast as I could and hightailed it out of there. And that's the road to redemption, coming from being and having nothing, literally nothing, and being put through all that hell to coming and being 100% service connected vet. So now I'm blessing other vets, man.
Yeah, that's a good feeling. I remember that feeling too. I'm not
Yes,
hundred
sir.
percent, but I get a 100% pay, so I know that feeling. I remember when that came through for me too, so I understand that.
Yeah, you can relate to me in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
and I can relate a lot to you. And I just feel this kindred spirit, which is why, you shared with me earlier today. I'm getting you excited because I'm about to bless you 1,000-fold.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what I'm about, James. That's what fuels me is to say, hey, if you're struggling with something, man, I think Mike's the guy you got to talk to because he's kind of done it all.
Mike,
So,
God definitely works in mysterious ways. He brought you into my life for a reason.
yes, sir. And I'm so glad you reached out to me. When I saw the title of your podcast, I thought, man, how true is that? We're all in recovery, and God just has blessed you and me by being on our show together today. And I love meeting Ted. You got to meet Odie that can't see because of his hair. And the other 2 were too shy to come on camera, but I'm a big dog lover, man. God spelled backwards is dog, unconditional.
Dog, yes, sir. Yes,
So yeah.
sir.
If you're a dog lover, you're in good company with me, man. Like I said, I got 3 of them. So I'll share this with you, man. This is so cool. I was at that food pantry for the first time, and there was this family that came in. It was their mom with a little boy that was like 4 or 5, and they had a dog that the mom was carrying. So I said to the little boy, start talking to him about the puppy, and he just lit up, man. He goes, because I told him, I said, I got 3 dogs at home. And he goes, man, you got pictures of them? And can I come out to your house and play with them and all this stuff, right? And I'm thinking to myself, man, what a blessing. So I was out there, and that's when God really turned on me. Like I said that night, I'm like, I was so blessed by that little guy giving me high fives and hugs that was blessing me, man, 1,000-fold and more than had I gone to that conference and had to pitch myself in front of all these people trying to, pick you apart or pick your story apart. So it's like, no, man, I'm going to stay in my own backyard where I'm planted by God and feed the poor. So that's what I'm doing.
Right. I'm glad you're talking about God right now, Mike, because the most impactful part of your story to me was the dream of Jesus and the Sea of Tears.
Yes, sir. That one.
That
Yeah.
hit me hard. That really spoke to me. Can you tell us about that dream more, and what did you see, and
Yeah.
what did it mean to you?
Yeah, that was the one that really kind of turned the corner for good. It was like Christ appeared to me in a dream one night, clear as a bell, right? And so I'm sitting there looking off into this great, beautiful sea, without limit, right? It's like I'm standing there at the shore, and there behind me is this big pile of just almost to the sky and back of all these muddy, dirty, filthy pennies. And off to the right of that was this just gorgeous waterfall with all the different colors that were just so beautiful to behold. And they were all, the waterfall was pouring into the sea of tears. And then Christ appeared to me and said, "My son Michael, do you know the meaning of this place?" And I said, "No, Lord." And he goes, "The Sea of Tears is what we're looking at here, and the waterfall over to the right is where all the tears are stored up from all the nations, from all the tribes of all the world. And they flow constantly into the Sea of Tears where those prayers are answered by me." And the muddy penny reference is that people today in society, with the way the world is these days, doesn't when people look in the mirror, they don't value their own life more than a dirty muddy penny that feels worthless, because that's how far gone this society and world is today. So your job, Michael, is to take one penny and bring it here at my feet to wash it in the sea of tears until it shines like a brand new penny. And then that penny will in turn take another one from the pile and spend that as much time as possible doing the same thing. And one by one, we're going to touch the world for Christ. And that was kind of me summing it up, and it was like I could see the scars on his feet. I could see the scars on his hand. And he was just so magnificent. And I just didn't want to wake up from the dream. So I made a point that when I did get back and shake off the sleep, that I was going to write it all down before I forgot what it was all about and the meaning of it. And like I said before, I journaled for over 30 years before that book got published last January. So that was my one solace, that I always was journaling and not even knowing why. The thing that started the writing process is there was this guy that came on the Oprah Winfrey show back in the day when she had her Book of the Month club, and it was called something about a million pieces, or his life in a million pieces or something. Anyway, so he goes on there with his book. He's telling her about all these great fabricated stories, as it turns out, because all the people that he knew in his life called in that night to the studio and said he's making about 90% of that up. It never happened. So Oprah invited him back like a couple of days later to chew his rear end out. And I remember watching this on TV and turning to my wife and thinking, after just a fraction of being and I hadn't even gone through the majority of all my trials yet, but I said, I think I could put together a better book than that and it would all be true. So that kind of started the writing process many decades ago. And we finally got it all put together and published in January. So what you see in the end result was my journaling and then my ghostwriting team, the Brooklyn publishers, putting a good spin on it. So, and the ironic part about the book too is that my brother, my one and only brother, who's an atheist, wrote the dedication and about my wife. And he's a tremendous writer. That was all him. That was all him. Okay. So when you read the book, that opening dedication is my brother, Pat, and knowing what my wife had to put up with dealing with me for 36 plus years. So that's in the book, and, couldn't be prouder of it. Pat's going over to France now to tour all the churches over there looking for answers. And I'm like, you should just look at Mike in the mirror and say, that tour in hell in that padded cell. If you read those sample chapters on the website, that's going to make you want to pick up a copy of the book. Cause it's like, it's like, man, Mike has gone through hell and back literally, and then some, and he's still standing. So maybe there's hope for me too,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shout out to your brother Pat too. Pat, be careful over there in France.
Yes, sir.
That's a powerful, powerful story. Mike, you didn't just have a dream, you had a revelation.
Yes, sir.
You
Yes,
know,
sir.
that's I could visualize everything that you're talking about. It's like bringing me to tears and stuff, man.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's just one of those things that it's just my life story is just such a journey of trials and tribulations and everything. But the one thing I love sharing with people is, um, don't let yourself go too far down the road But if you do, okay, God will love on you and welcome you home with open arms. That's the message of the Bible that I share with everybody. There's a small men's group, like I told you earlier, James, when I held up the Life Recovery Bible that I lead on Thursdays. And they always pray for me and stuff. And they say, Mike, you got such a powerful testimony, because there's a lot of people that have toured heaven, that died and went to heaven in it and brought back to life, to just try to describe how beautiful it is. But there's very few people that have been through all the stuff you have been through, especially that tour in hell for 3 straight days. And I'll share one last thing with you about that episode coming out of the padded cell. I had this nurse, and about 3 days after the manic episode and the straitjacket and all that ended, I wound up having this nurse visit me in my room, and she said, Mike, when you were coming out of that place for those 3 days, you were looking like a cornered animal, because your eyes were as big as saucers. I was that terrified of what I saw in hell. So it was real to me. It was very real. That's why I'm on that mission that I am today, is to say, turn to Christ before it's too late, because you want no part of eternity living like that. Read that sample chapter and see everything Mike went through, and make your commitment to Christ today. That's why it's called the gutter gospel. You may have been through the gutter in life. All of us have. That's the truth. That's the one thing that's authentic, that resonates with people, is it's like, hey, when I was going through this time in my life or that time in my life, I felt like that muddy penny. I hated myself, and I was just giving up or about to give up. And I was brought back from the brink for some reason. That's Mike's story in a nutshell. That's what the gutter gospel is all about. So, yeah, like I said, feel free to read the book, the sample chapters at least. I love it if you bought a copy of the book, or donate on the donate tab for the food pantry, or just check it out, because years of suffering have gone into it. So for $7.99, you're getting a deal.
I'll be sure to put all the links and stuff in this episode right here, Mike.
Yes, sir.
We have so much in common, Mike. You wouldn't believe. You have to check out when you speak about hell. It's just like something that resonates with me. You have to check out the new episode on Swaggy Vets. I talk about hell. Well, I don't really know if it was hell, but it felt like hell when I had my 13 minutes of death.
Yeah, I got to read that.
Yeah, it's something similar to what you've been through.
Yeah.
One phrase you repeated, Mike, is God kept showing up. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, the way I can describe it best is that, whether it was out of body experiences or dreams or the plaque or other things I haven't shared yet, for some reason, God would show up I'll share this with you. Here's another one that, like the lady with the Bible tract, the little old lady. My roommate in the Air Force was a Christian. So were my coworkers, a lot of them. My next door neighbor, it was a co-ed dorm. She was from Alabama, and would invite me to church all the time. And of course, I was too busy, getting drunk and watching football on Sundays. So, but yeah, there was this Christian radio station back in the day where they had 2 Christian psychologists on, and one said to the other, he goes, I've got 7 kids, and all of them are high achievers in their fields, but I've got the second youngest, which is where I rank in the family, that's bipolar. And he goes, but you know something, Frank? I bet you anything that one day down the road, I don't know when, it's just like that guy said to me in the psych unit, that guy is going to outshine the rest of them by far. And I'm doing it now, man, because my message has been heard in over 100 countries on every continent since January, just starting in January by doing these guest appearances on all these podcasts. And it's just a blessing. I get to help people from all over the world. My oldest sister's a doctor, and she's not reaching out and helping people. She's just living off her retirement, And it's like, this world is so hurting, man. They need somebody to be able to speak to them and say, hey, wake up. It's for all the marbles. Like a good friend of mine says from my Bible study group, it's for all the marbles, and you got a choice. It's either the smoking or non-smoking section when it comes to eternity.
Oh man,
You know what
that
I
is
mean?
yes, that is wow. That's perfect. That's
Yes,
perfect.
sir. Smoking or non-smoking, you got the
Yes,
choice, guys.
I
Christ did
like
it
that.
all at Calvary, so the price has been paid. Another famous saying, it's my favorite verse in the entire Bible, is Revelations 12:11, which says we've overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. That ties it all together. It's what Christ did for you, James, and for everybody on the planet, what he did and all he had to endure on Calvary, and we need to share it with other people
Amen.
with our testimony, which is exactly what I'm doing, which is to point people to Christ in my most imperfect, broken way and broken life, that I can now say, guys, like I just shared, it's for all the marbles, man, and it's up to you to find Christ. And I'm showing you the way, through everything I say, through everything I write, through everything I believe in with the pantry and all these other ministries. It's like, help people, man, to the best of your ability with your platform. Help people.
Yes, and you're doing an outstanding job, Mike. Outstanding. In that process, you didn't just rebuild your life, you became a jail chaplain.
Well, I'm working on being an official one, but yes, sir.
And so how did stepping into that role change your sense of purpose?
Oh man, it makes a world of difference, because these people have been through everything I have. And the guy that heads it all up, I know very well. We do Bible studies together and prayer every week. And he's the head dog. His name is Mike Sandrew, Chaplain Mike. And he jokes with me. He says, Mike, I used to have to go to Chicago to do mission trips and witness to the inner city people that were hooked on drugs. But he goes, with the way life has progressed these days, the prisoners come to me through dealing drugs, coming up from Chicago, end up here. It's a major traffic hub for, well, like it is all over the country with fentanyl and everything. But they wind up in the jails, and then I get to bring them to Christ when they're in the prison. So that's a ministry I really support and believe in wholeheartedly, and good friends with those guys. So yeah, that's that. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's near and dear to my heart, like the food pantry and all these other things I'm involved with. So keeps me busy and keeps me occupied and out of trouble. So that's all positive, man.
Yes, sir. Very inspirational. What message do you bring to others who feel forgotten, lost, or unworthy of redemption?
Well, I tell you what I do is I just love on them, man. I invite them out to lunch that I pay for, or you know, like the parable of the muddy penny, love on them. If it's a vet that doesn't have the disability, get them it. If it's somebody that doesn't have food, volunteer at the food pantry. You name it. There's all kinds of avenues. People ask me a question that's very similar to that one you just asked me, and I say, well, you know what? There's a Salvation Army in just about every city, guys. Go serve meals to the homeless. Get out of your own head and start being a servant. That was just like my message about going to Orlando for the conference. Instead, God redirected me in love, saying, no, man, you're going to be on your knees and you're going to be a servant for me.
Yes, yes. Always God has a path for everybody. I truly believe that.
Yes, sir. That's why I love that chain you got around your neck so much, man.
Yes, the Last Supper. And not
Yeah.
only that, Mike, I have the ring as well. Like,
Yeah, I see that. You got all the
yeah,
bling going.
I
Yeah.
have like a deep connection with God after
Going through
my
your
accident.
experience. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Well, I know we got to talk. We got to get into that sometime.
Yes, yes. It's deep, Mike. It's deep. It's very deep.
Yeah, well, you picked up a copy of my book, so I'm going to be more than supporting you. I've already been giving you some good avenues to start getting on more shows and getting you booked more. I know you're kind of new to the whole podcasting thing, but that's cool because it's like, you got a story and a platform to share. And if I can do anything on my end to help it grow and get you out there more, that's you're just one more in the domino effect in my life to say, reach out to them, bless them, give them a box of those chippers so they get hooked on them. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes,
Do stuff like that. Love on people, man. That's what I'm
yes.
doing.
That's what it's all about.
Love on them, man.
Yes,
Everybody needs somebody to love on them these days, especially with the way the world is.
yes. I agree 100%. So when you look back at moments of rejection, addiction, and mental illness, what lessons do you learn from those seasons? I like to call them seasons that you carry with you today.
Well, I've got physical scars. I've got emotional scars. I've got all kinds of scars. My last drinking binge many years ago was I was so drunk that I fell shoulder first, this deltoid, and look at this. This is permanently disabled. I can only move my right arm up a little bit. I can't shake somebody's hand right-handed. I can't play basketball, swim, racquetball, any of that stuff anymore because I was drunk. And look at this, James. The distance from here to here, we wouldn't be having that conversation had God put that accident right between on my forehead. It was that much in pain. I'll share this with you. How addicted I was that I was laying on the floor that night, covered in my own urine, right? Crying out in pain. And I was just like, my arm was basically just dangling from my side. And I was covered head to toe, black and blue, all over my entire right side of my body. And I thought to myself, I wonder if I could get up and drive myself to the liquor store for another fix. And it was like that. That was that was that was what kind of ended it abruptly. It was like I couldn't even use my drinking hand anymore. That's how pig-headed I was. Oh man.
Oh man.
I can't drink with my left hand because it says theguttergospel.com with crosses, and then this says choose this day whom you will serve with crosses on both sides. So I got to get that messaging out there too, It's not about the gutter gospel, but it's about daily choices. What are you going to do today? You going to be selfish and drink or use some other chemical, or are you going to turn and be a servant?
I'll tell you what, Mike, you're living proof that God doesn't waste pain. He repurposes it,
Amen. Purposeful pain. Yes.
Yes. And I love that name, the gutter gospel. I love it.
Yeah. Everybody can relate to being in the gutter, right?
Yes.
Everybody.
Yes, sir.
Ever since the fall of mankind, everybody can relate to being in the gutter.
Yes. Yes, definitely. So let's talk legacy, Mike. What does redemption mean to you today after everything you've basically been through?
Redemption is a journey, that's why it's called The Road to Redemption is the subtitle of the Gutter Gospel. It's a journey in life that Christ takes you through, and you have to see his hand at work along the way. And unfortunately for Mike, I had to learn the hard way. So I'm here today to say it might be a process, but God's got you in love by his hand, his mighty hand. He gave you a unique purpose. And I always share this in my shows, James, which is to say that you can have a set of identical twins and they can be as opposite as day as night. And we are all given unique talents, and it's for the purpose to serve the kingdom of God. I always enjoy inserting this little fact, which is I read The Purpose-Driven Life, and to spoil the ending of that book, it is to say at the end of the book, the moral of the story is to carry out the Great Commission. That's the purpose-driven life. It's to carry out Christ's love and what he did for you on that cross. And when you go through the 40-day journey of the purpose-driven life, it gives you all the readings each day. But at the end, that's what it talks about, is we're here to carry out the Great Commission about Christ, what he did at Calvary, and love on people like he loved us and thought of us individually when he was going through all that torment.
Amen. Amen. Preach, Brother Mike. Preach.
I
Yes, I
can be
love
here
it.
for hours, buddy.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So you founded the Gutter Gospel, and it's clearly more than a name. What impact do you want the Gutter Gospel to leave behind for those who came after you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I want them to kind of say, you know what? I might be broken right now in this season, like you said, you used the word season. I might be broken in this time. I might be in the homeless shelter. I might be in a bar. I might be, like Billy Graham used to say, regardless of where you're at in life, God's got you in that season for a purpose. And he's going to use that, your unique story. Everybody's got a story to tell. I share that in all the men's groups I'm involved with. Everybody sitting around this table's got a story, guys. And just yesterday, there was this gentleman, man, he lost his son to drug overdose. He had one of his legs amputated. He's been through a lot in life too, but one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. And he's part of the jail chaplains. He helps the guys. There's a thing up here called Project Genesis that after they get out of the jail chaplains ministry, they transition back in with a faith-based program, and it's called the Genesis program, getting them Bible teaching all the time. So that's another thing I'm involved with up here. So, but yeah, it's all encompassing, every day of the week, you got to be doing something. So like I said earlier, do you want to serve yourself or do you want to serve the kingdom? So that's what it boils down to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what's your next goals, Mike? Personally and spiritually, what's the next chapter of Mike Smith's story?
Well, I was going to go to the conference, but I gave up on that idea. So I think it's just to try and stay in this broken season in my life and be humble, because a lot's come my way just within the last 2 or 3 weeks ever since I canceled that conference. That's when the article in the forum was brought up and was featured there. And ever since that happened, man, the floodgates have opened because of blessings, because it's like, how many people can you name that are a 2-time suicide survivor and everything else I shared with you today, and come through all of that to get a feature article put on the biggest media outlet in Fargo. That's the Fargo Forum. If you ever look it up, what's the biggest media outlet in Fargo? It's the Inform, or the Fargo Forum, that featured my story that I sent to you. So, yeah, that publication, and then teaming up now with Pod Pitch, it's like being able to get other journalists from all over the world to pick up the story and turn that into blessings for the ministries I believe in, for the food pantry and other things. So that's what's in my future, is to be doing these shows regardless of who show I get invited on. I always make extra time to be on there as long as possible to get the message out and to share and to say, don't give up in life. God's got that plan for you. That's what he knew you before the world was created, it says in the Bible. So you might be born into an imperfect family like me, because everybody has been. No such thing as a perfect family, man. I hear all those stories, right, about broken
Yes,
dads,
say it again.
broken moms, broken this, broken that, broken everything, the gutter. So that's what resonates to people. It's like it's such a broad message, because it's like everybody's in pain, man, to one degree or the other,
Yes,
and it's just a matter of who hides it better. Is kind of the way I look at it,
yes,
And
yes,
I'm like, no, man, I journaled about it. I write about it. I talk about it. I cry about it. I laugh about it. I was just at this meeting before you and I came on air with that food pantry, went to my local church, and I was sharing the story with them about how much the support of the church meant to us, that we were so poor. a few years ago that my wife had to collect aluminum cans to have enough money to get us 1 gallon of milk. And
Wow.
when I shared that story with that pastor, I started to get all teared up because it's like, man, it was that raw and poor. And so again, we're talking about seasons, and seeing how God was still working on me and my messaging, but everybody is getting worked on every day or we die. You're either going to grow or you're going to die. Those are your two
Right.
options. So let's grow.
Let's grow.
There's that verse that little acronym in my autobiography about G stands first. It's a process. G stands for God first. The R stands for recovery. O stands for others, and W stands for work. I think you got to prioritize your life that way. Serve God first, and recovery's got to be right behind it, right next to it. And then you serve others once you get that message across and put your work last, because it will reflect in your work too.
Yes, sir. We got to end this one in one sentence. What does "we're all recovering" mean to you, Mike?
Well, could you repeat that, please?
What does "we're all recovering" mean to you?
Yeah, that we're all recovering is a very good podcast name, because it's true. Because we're all broken. We're all sinners saved by grace. And that's the way the whole plan was designed. So you got to grab hold of that recovery theme and run with it. God knows that you're a broken human being, and his body was broken for us, so we got to
Yes.
get on and stick to that road of redemption that I talk about, because it's a journey, man.
Amen. Amen. Mike, brother, your story reminds us that redemption isn't a destination, it's a daily decision. You've gone from the Air Force to the battlefield of addiction and back into the mission field of faith. You're proof that God uses broken people to build beautiful things, brother. Thank
Amen.
you. Thank you for sharing your truth on War We're All Recovering. If you want to learn more about Mike's mission, check out theguttergospel.com or support Mike Smith's mission, Love and Recovery, or GoFundMe. Until next time, stay grounded, stay faithful, and always stay sturdy. Thank you, Mike.
God bless.
God bless.
Since the war began, 3,192 U.S. troops have been killed, more than 24,000 wounded. At least 50,000 Iraqi civilians have died.
It's war.
The invasion of Iraq is a good time to stop. Since the war began, 3,192 U.S. troops have been killed, more than 24,000 wounded. At least 50,000 Iraqi civilians have died.
It's war.